Sitting down with Mirthell Onyx was a really enlightening experience. He has really guided his whole family through faith, and you're going to learn so much from him about how to be entrepreneurial and have an entrepreneurial mindset with your family, how to do so, but not lose your family and keep your family through that process. I hope you get a lot out of it. I certainly did. And if you're into building your brand as a family or building your brand as an individual, there's something you could definitely learn out of this episode of Disruption Now. Of course, as always, we are powered by Disrupt Art, and I hope you enjoy this. If you believe we can change the narrative, if you believe we can change our communities, if you believe we can change the outcomes, then we can change the world. I'm Rob Richardson. Welcome to Disruption Now. Welcome to Disruption Now. I'm your host and moderator, Rob Richardson. With me is Mirthell Onyx, with the Onyx brand, I'm going to call it. Just so many brands under your empire. I would say you have over 7 million YouTube subscribers collectively between all of the brands, and about 4 billion streaming views. Woo! It's a lot of views.
Yeah.
I'm very humbled that you're on our podcast, and really excited to learn more about what you're doing and really learn from what you've done. I mean, it's really impressive looking at what you built as a family, how you were able to build that out, and how you're working together. Not only what you've built out, but the fact that you're working together as a family unit to kind of do
Absolutely.
this. I mean,
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being on the show. It is a privilege for us to be on the #1 Christian broadcast.
All right.
So we're people of faith and family, and so this is an honor for us to be speaking with you.
Oh, well, so are we. We got the right company here. So let's talk about your entry into starting a YouTube show for your family. That's a lot, right? It requires a whole lot of time, and in some ways, it requires your family to kind of balance out between being just your family and being this public personality. Right. Walk me through how this started and how you got to this point.
Well, I'm an ordained minister.
Okay.
And a marriage and family therapist. Marriage and family therapist came a little bit after, but it was necessary because if anybody knows what a pastor does, most of his stuff is working with the sheep and families in particular. And so I felt I needed to be more comparable to be able to do that. So I went and got my master's in science in marriage and family therapy, and then began to that was always my passion anyhow. I've always been the family guy. So if I'm on the rostrum and I'm preaching, I'm always preaching about from the angle of family, one of the greatest institutions that God has put on this earth. So that was who I was prior. I had my practice, and I was also in the church. My wife, she became a nurse practitioner. So she was in school during some of the time that I was in ministry, and she became a nurse practitioner. As time progressed, she started to look into different things. She's always been an entrepreneur. So I'm not here, if you want the business side of it, like the algorithm stuff, that's her. You know what I'm saying? She's a brains. So she started studying YouTube, and she was like, wow, people are making money off of this thing. And I think that, this is an opportunity for you to be able to have a second chance, because I had left ministry. And at that point in time, I didn't know what I was going to do at that point in time either.
Right.
And so, and that's how it kind of started. And within a month of us, well, we launched in like November 2015, but not a real launch. We kind of got into it, and we failed miserably, if you want to call it failure. It's not really failure, but 50 cents for the month is, some people would say that's failure. So we got 50 cents, and then she started studying it. And when she started studying it, she realized, okay, no, we need to do this, we need to do that, we need to do that.
So talk about that, because part of what we're talking about is developing your brand. It sounds like, and developing your brand as a family. And I know your wife sounds like the chief operator, and you're kind of the person that's the presenter, it sounds like, right. Well, which is good. You need both. You need the visionary and the implementer, right?
Absolutely. So I frankly, I understand it now, but she was the one that was doing it. So what she did was she started studying the algorithm, and she started to look at the trends, and she started realizing that there's a connection between the algorithms and the trends. started looking at keyword optimizations and search, looked into search engines to see which keywords were critical in order to get your brand or your video into the algorithm. And so when she started studying that, she came back and we relaunched. And we launched as a kids channel. And we began to do like, there was a trend that was going on back then, which was getting into like, getting into costumes. It required costumes and things like that. And so we got into that. And so we got our costumes and we did our thing. That was the trend at the time. Yeah. And frankly, to tell you the truth, I wanted to do ministry. I want to just jump right in and just want to.
You're kind of like me, like you're helping me. This is something because I do a lot and I stick to this, but it's like at the end of the day, you also have to make sure people are paying attention and it's following. We won't say following the trends. It's understand because you didn't follow the trends. You just set your own path, but you understood where the trends were going and use that to basically hook people into the content. That's how I see it. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I wanted to get right into ministry. I wanted to get into the serious parts about, the Black family and get into, things where, we need to be there in this particular way or that particular way. We need to be the face and, all these things that my understanding from a marriage and family background and just understanding politically where we are as a country, as a nation, where the family is, where society is. I want to get into the meat. And my wife said, no. She said, no. She said, you got to entertain. You got to speak the language of the people. You got to speak the conversation, have the conversations that they want to have. And so we started to do trends. Yeah. And that's why we became the superhero family before we even became the Onyx family. We were doing what was trendy at the time.
Yeah.
And her idea was this is that if you give them what they want at first, then what will happen is on the back end, you will be able to say anything you want to say because you'll have the numbers, you'll have the audience, you'll have everything, and you can do anything. And that's where we are today. Yeah. We are able to say and do anything that we want to do.
Drop mic. I mean, it's about giving the consumers what you want and then giving them back what you feel that they need. But you first have to give them what they want.
What they want. You have to speak their language. Absolutely.
Yeah. You helped me. Like just this conversation right here is like, okay, this is an adjustment we need to make in really how we go about the YouTube and how we go about branding.
So we teach branding now. And one of the things that we teach is we teach always entertain first. I don't care what you are. You could be a dentist. Dentists come to us. People come to us with a gardening, landscaping, whatever your business is. It doesn't matter. Entertain first. It's incredible how the human nature is, but we don't like chaos. We don't like catastrophes. We don't like wars. We don't. Of course, we don't. We don't like these things. So what we do is we like to laugh. And we like to be distracted. So there's nothing like a good ball game during a war. There's nothing like
true.
Things go up when money goes down and people are struggling financially and economically. No better time than to laugh because you know what? And to drink, to laugh, to eat. You know what I'm saying? And so what ends up happening is, and we know great people in history. Very wise people, empires and emperors have come up with games like the card game and different things like that as a way to take their people who are going through struggles, take their minds off of the fact that you're living on a hill and you're living down here and you're struggling and you have to pay me taxes as the emperor. So here's a card game and let's get them playing cards. It's whatever works. And so it's the same concept. Entertain people if whatever your business is, I don't care what it is.
Right.
Entertain them. Do a funny skit about it. Nobody does it better than people like Dave Chappelle or Chris.
Well, he's the best, isn't he?
Absolutely.
Dave Chappelle as another moment. Just Dave Chappelle is really, really, really good at taking serious content, but then making it funny. Like, I don't know how anybody could have made like the death of George Floyd entertaining in some way or police brutality engaging in some way.
Profound.
It is profound because I'm like, I don't know how you do that. And this man just was able to bring all of that together and still make it funny. And you're like, wow, how do you do that? Like, so how do you do that? Like, how do you, that feels like magic to me.
Right. And that's the thing. It's like, to me, he's a preacher. But I know he's not a Christian, but he's a preacher to me because he takes the most serious things and he's able to speak to it, and we listen. Even if we don't agree with him, we are able to take it. It's like a pill that you're taking. You put it down with a little juice or whatever. He makes it palatable.
Yeah.
And so that's what we do. So our mission statement is tell the story, feed the soul, make them laugh, heal the heart. That is Onyx Family's mission story.
It's entertain first. And I think there was some struggle with me. Mirthell is like, okay, do I entertain first? Do I inform first? Like, do you lose your brand if you do this? But you can't have a brand if people aren't there, right? You cannot be a famous secret. So like, you got to get people there.
So you can do a great blend of edutainment where you're entertaining and educating at the same time. That is a great strategy to do that. And some people, what they're dealing with is so serious, or they don't know how to just entertain. So edutainment is fine. It's a blending of both educating and entertaining, with probably a little bit more leaning into the education side.
Education. My friend calls it infotainment, but yes, there you go.
Right, there you go. And so that's what we did. And so one of the things that we are disrupting, if we're gonna use the language of what you're disrupting, we needed to disrupt the market in the media, where Black faces are not seen and our stories are told, but they're told in only a certain way. And so what ends up happening is the entire world sees the Black family, or sees a Black man, or sees a Black woman, or sees a Black narrative only in a very narrow way.
Yep.
That when you walk in China, they automatically assume that you're a rapper, or they're automatically assume that you're a criminal, or of whatever nature. It doesn't matter where you go.
Rapper, athlete, entertainer.
There you go.
That's it.
That's it. And that our families are full of just single mothers. The fathers have kids all over the place. So there's a narrative that is being told. And so it's not like we are not represented or underrepresented. In fact, we are probably very much represented, but we're just represented in a very narrow way.
Yeah, we're overrepresented with the stereotypes and underrepresented on the truth.
There you go. And so I don't think that our family is unique. I know too many families that are just exactly like our family. So we are actually representing a big slice of who African-American families are. That has a father, that has a mother, that has children, that, that have their education, or that are entrepreneurs, or that, that are law-abiding citizens, that love their country, whatever. This narrative is just simply not told.
No, it's not. And it's been a very profitable narrative to just focus on the worst examples, the stereotypes of our culture, without actually having a full comprehensive scope. Because again, part of it goes to what you said. It's not that's what's been used to entertain. That's what people have found entertaining. What I love about you is that not only are you changing the narrative, you're using that algorithm and turning it on its head, right? You're using the algorithm as entertainment and turning it on its head to say, look, this is who we are. This is a more complete picture of who we are, not just what you get in entertainment. So I think what you're doing is revolutionary. I definitely want to come to the family table at some point. Let me put it out there.
Okay.
I want to come to the family table sometime.
Second season.
Yeah, we'll have to be there for that. So how do you keep everybody grounded? This is a lot, right? This is in principle. You've done a great job. How do you keep your kids grounded throughout this process, where they certainly have a certain level of celebrity, and now you want to make sure, of course, they're grounded in the principles of Christianity and the family values. How do you balance that out with them being celebrities? Because I would think that would be one of the biggest challenges.
Well, it's really hard to build a home after the foundation is set, and to restructure it. You'd have to break up the foundation and start over. And so I would say that while it is possible, we were blessed and fortunate to set the foundation right. And so before they were superstars, they were just humble, pastor's family. I was a pastor. My wife was first lady in a very small church in Ontario, Canada. Membership was probably maybe 250. That's where I began. And I've pastored other churches where there's been 1,000 and plus, but where I really began, like for my own senior, as a senior minister. It was in a small country type church. And and we'd go to prayer meetings on Wednesday night, you know, and interesting story, I remember, and we homeschooled our entire life. We really believed in homeschooling. So when I say homeschooling, a lot of people think, I think everybody needs to be homeschooled first and foremost. Okay. Every family. But I don't mean homeschooling in the traditional sense where people think like you keep your kids away from the school system. Now that's what we did. We homeschool them in the home. But when I say everybody needs to homeschool, what I'm saying is that you as a parent are responsible for your children's education and raising them. So even if you send them to school, which is fine, you're responsible for what they learn. You're responsible for their values. You're responsible for teaching them how to live and then ultimately launching them. And the school system does not launch your children. They don't set them up for autonomy. They don't set them up for life. You're responsible for that. And so each family needs to homeschool.
A few things I can break down with that statement. People like to blame the public school system, and there are issues with the public school system.
Right.
But ultimately, it is your responsibility to empower and educate your family. Schools are never going to do that. They weren't even designed to do that. Schools were designed to basically make workers in factories from that point of view, right? An old model that needs to change. That's neither here nor there.
Kind of looks like the prison system too, if you look at it.
I mean, kind of, right?
The yard where you go out to play, you know, you have to sit in, you know, you have to move from this class to that class. You're told constantly what you have to do next. You know, the lunchroom looks just like the chow, you know, where you go and slap the food. I mean, the bell rings and, you know, time to move, everybody move in the same direction. You know, when you stop and look at the school system, it really designs our children to be able to be good workers, but it doesn't design them to be intelligent, free thinkers, and to be entrepreneurs. So you have to learn the same thing. And the learning style is systematically designed, you know, for a certain type of thinker.
Yes.
And so if your child is sitting there, you have some geniuses inside your classroom that will never reach your potential. And it's when they drop out of school, and I'm not suggesting that you need to do that, that's when they thrive. And that's where we have the millionaires, and that's where we have great leaders, and that's where we have huge corporations. You know, they came from people that were not successful in that prison system.
No, there's no question about that. It's a very monolithic way of teaching, of learning, and I'll make this very clear for my kids, because sometimes I say the same things that you're saying, and we had this debate with my wife at home and everything. I'm like, yes, school is important in terms of learning how to learn. Get that. Sure. But they're not going to teach you how to think like an entrepreneur. You can't depend on them to do that, because the system was not designed for that. The system was designed to make you be a worker, to put you in debt, and to make you. So you can contribute to the system and make other people wealthy. Like, that's really what they teach you when they teach you how to go about saving. They don't teach you normally about investing. They teach you to go about having a job. They don't teach you about what it means to be an entrepreneur.
Conformity.
Conformity. They don't teach you how to leverage your money. And they don't teach you that saving your money and just putting it in the bank is actually losing money because of inflation. So like, these are things you don't.
And then the bank takes your money, and then your bank invests it where you should be investing it. So when you go to the bank now, especially in these days where they limit how many you can take out, you go to the bank and you say, hey, can I take out my 100,000? And they're like, no, I'm sorry, we can only give you 30. Wait, hold on. You know, I need 100,000 out of my money. No, we can only give you 30 because what we're doing is we have this invested in this and this and this. But don't worry, come back tomorrow, make an appointment. If you want that kind of money, you come back. Like, wait a second, I want my money. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But my money is being invested. So no, bank accounts is not it. You know, it doesn't teach your children about taxes.
Doesn't teach them about full history. Let's keep going with it. I mean, it doesn't. You got to teach your kids and take time with your kids to inform them, because otherwise, you know. The only thing we have the ability to control is our thoughts, actually. Right. Nothing else. You really don't have the ability to control anything else. So,
me and my wife, we were in our PhD programs. Like, we literally, and then we were like, wait, hold on a second. Why are we going to go into this PhD program? You know, we both have masters. I have 2, she has 1. So we're educated people. Like, you know, But the thing about it is that we realize, wait, why are we going to get a next degree when we have all this debt? Why are we going to have another degree? Why don't we use the knowledge that we just had? So we're not anti-education because we're very educated. We just understand the system. Yeah. And so that's why we're able to even help people who are educated take the education that they got and now leverage it to find how they can use it in a way that will work best for them. Because we're both. We respect both worlds.
What you have to, right? And there is, like, you got to have, if everybody was an entrepreneur, no one would be a worker. You need both, right? You need both. But I think everybody needs to have an entrepreneurial mindset, even if you're not an entrepreneur. Like, how do you make sure that you have other sources of income? How do you leverage what you have, the knowledge you have beyond just where you work? And how do you leverage the income you have now so you're not always dependent on one source of income? That's really the part I tell. Everybody doesn't have to be an entrepreneur. Everybody needs to be entrepreneurial in their thinking and how they apply things, and never assume that a company is going to be there to take care of you, because those days are long gone and done. All right. So what's the best advice you've received, and what's the worst?
Best advice that I've received. I think that making sure that you are trying to own as much as possible yourself, branding yourself. I think that God has given us each one giftedness inside of ourselves. And so I think that learning how to discover what God has placed inside of you, and then branding that, finding a way to monetize it, finding a way to let it become attractable to others so that others can get to know who you truly are. I think what happens is that most of us are told kind of what we should do or what we should be. You know, we're looking at other people and we're saying, maybe I should be that because that looks lucrative. And I think we're missing the opportunity when we are not following the path that was designed for us. That's not the easy way, but if it's following the path that's designed for us. And then learning money skills and how to monetize it.
Yeah.
Those are two things that if you can do that, and if you teach your children that will be great. So I was doing an interview with Matthew McConaughey over his book, and the Green Lights.
Green Light's a great book.
Yeah, we were helping promote that. And we thought it was fascinating too. There was a concept that he had in there that I resonate with. And the concept is this thing where it's like, many people consider themselves almost like they're the arrow, an arrow and a target. And so when they see themselves as an arrow and their life is an arrow, they're constantly looking at ways like, I gotta hit the target. If I don't hit this target, if I don't get this test, if I don't get this job, if I don't get this thing, if I miss the mark, then that's it. I missed the mark. You know what I'm saying? But Matthew switched it and he said, I'm more the target. See, opportunities come to me. I am like a magnet. My wife prefers magnet because she's like, we're black. We can't be targets. You know
yeah, so magnet might be better. So we're the magnet, not the target. Yeah, I'm with your wife. Like,
right. But I get what Matthew's saying. He gets the target because the target means that opportunities are coming to you. You're drawing opportunities to you. And that's what our God-given gifts do. When we align our God-given gifts with our purpose, we become targets, or we become magnets where we don't have to shoot our shot.
Yeah.
Shots get shot to us. So let me give you an example. When what's his name? The Dr. Fauci.
Yeah.
People see us doing an interview with Dr. Fauci at the height of the pandemic. Dr. Fauci called us. We didn't call Dr. Fauci.
Wow.
Dr. Fauci saw us working in our element. His team called us and said, we need to work with this family because we need to make sure that we are connecting with the Black community. Then Biden and Kamala's team, they're having there's a tumultuous time in our country, culturally and in everything. They called us to rock the vote. Then they invited us to the inauguration, and we were part of the inauguration with Kiki Palmer. They called us.
That's pretty awesome.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So these are examples that I'm saying. And when you're in a situation where you're not at the mountaintop experience, you don't see the future yet. So you need your faith. You need the eyes of faith, the faith that is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not yet seen. So I'm sitting in my car now, coming back. I'm ordering them pizza. We're coming back. I'll put on SpongeBob or I'll put on a cartoon that they like, and they'll be in the back and la 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 la. Fast forward now to that future that you had not seen, that time where the Bible promises us that the faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Now we fast forward. My children are sitting around the writing table with the director of SpongeBob movie, the president of Nickelodeon.
Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
Their favorite shows and their favorite actors, they're now operating in that circle. So when I saw God do that miracle, and then the miracle of taking me and my family so that I will now be able to be a representation, because mission to me matters far more than money. Like the money is there.
Yeah.
But the mission is everything for me, because I already know that this money is gone. Like at the end of the day, this money is going to be gone. And for me, our mission is important because there's too many kids of color that does not see representation of themselves, do not see accurate representation of themselves. And I believe in beholding you become change. So I don't need to preach. We don't preach. We don't preach anything except for we make them laugh. We tell the story, make them laugh, heal the heart. That's what we do.
That's
Why?
awesome.
Because by beholding you become change, they will get our spirit. They will get our positivity. They will see us just like we saw the Cosby Show, and we will feel like I can become a doctor. I can become a lawyer because I see it.
Yes.
Barack Obama doesn't have to do one thing for Black people. He just has to sit in that position, and he already accomplished what he needed to accomplish.
Yep.
Because I can become the president.
That's exactly right.
Brown, now she is sitting on the highest courts. She doesn't have to do a ruling that I agree with. From this point on, our daughters know they can sit on the highest court. By beholding, we become change. So we can shift our culture. We can shift the trauma that we've experienced through slavery. We can shift the trauma that we've experienced through drugs infiltrated in our homes. We can shift the trauma that we experience as the family has broken up by beholding and seeing that it's possible for us to change the narrative.
What is a theme, a Google ad that stands for what you stand for, or the Onyx kind of brand? What is that theme? What is that saying, and why?
A Google ad.
It can be a Google ad. It could just be a billboard that has a saying. Whatever your saying is, what is that saying? Why?
So if there was a billboard, that billboard would say, "We each are loved perfectly, eternally."
Mirthell Onyx, pleasure having you on. Please come on again, man.
All right, man. Take care. Thank you for having me.